But there was one thing I came to learn, one thing I couldn't control, I couldn't change, and I still can't today. I am a woman.
You're listening to Good Because Danish podcast, Let's Talk Women in the Music Industry.
Run your hand on this unknown land, take a trip and then say you understand my heart.
In June 2020, GAFA published an article with list of Gramex's top 20 musicians played the most in Danish radio and TV. There was only one female artist on that list, Stine Bømsen from Alphabet.
Behold, woman, I am money.
The last couple of years, more and more women in the music industry spoke up about the unequal treatment and problems with sexism.
Behold, money, I am woman.
Yet there were still many cases of reviews, interviews, and general presentation of female artists focused on their gender, sex appeal, and often including rude and sexist comments that had nothing to do with their music.
Someone's told me you will never make it in the business. You got no fuckability, too much opinion.
Music should be the great equalizer, but it isn't there yet. Why? What is the experience of the female artists in the Danish music industry? And what the industry is doing to make things better? Let's talk women in the music industry. First, we listened to Fallulah, who is a voice of women in the Danish music business from many years as an artist and as a creator of initiative Hey Sister. She told us what does it really mean to be a woman in the music business. Then we turned to Jakob, a founder and C.E.O. of W.A.S Entertainment, a music company that started the public debate on ways of improving the equality and eliminating sexism from the Danish music industry.
I'm Maria Apetri. I make music under the name Fallulah, and I have been for many years. I'm from Copenhagen, and I write, and I sing, and I produce, and I also have an initiative called Hey Sister, which I made to strengthen the support between women in the music industry.
We listened closely to Fallulah and her experience in fighting sexism in the Danish music industry.
You asked me if people are recognizing that there is inequality in the music industry for women. And for a long time, there was no sort of consciousness about it in the industry. And those of us who spoke up, it wasn't very welcomed, I would say. And also, it can be hard because as an artist, it's especially from a small country, it's sort of a vulnerable thing because if people sort of blacklist you, then you might end up not being able to work and not make a living from your music. And that's definitely something I've always sort of struggled with because I can't keep my mouth shut. And I need to use my voice if I see something that I feel is unfair. And so I've been doing that actually for many years. But, either people just didn't respond. There was nobody wanted to have the conversation, really. Or otherwise, I was told I was wrong, just being paranoid or, So for a long time, I felt very sort of alone with these thoughts. And, I didn't really understand why nobody wanted to speak about it. What was so dangerous about just having a conversation. So I was working with a female booking agent quite a few years ago. And we were at this sort of event, like a business party that they held. And I remember going up to her and being like, why are there so few women on festivals? And I kind of expected her as a female in the industry to be like honest and just be like, oh, you know what? I think this is also like something we should talk about. But she was just like, nope. No problem here. There's just not that many women in music. That response you hear all the time. That's sort of been like the go-to response. So I felt very sort of disappointed because I had hoped at least from another female, we could have spoken about this honestly. And I had this experience quite a lot, even talking to other female artists. I just felt like they were like, we don't want to go there. Like, you know, just like keep focused on the music and just hope for the best and like don't hurt any like relationships in the industry kind of thing. So I just got to a place where I was just kind of sick of being scared. And I also felt a lot of the resistance coming from females themselves and myself, realizing that that's something we were sort of trained to do because there's so few women in the industry. So the competition is really fierce and you're not encouraged to support each other or being friends or anything like that. It's very competitive and you're always compared. So it's like, oh, you can't get this slot at the festival because we gave it to this other female artist who doesn't make music that sounds like your music at all, but you're both female. You know, so that's something I was told from the very beginning. And so this was very sort of, I had to be honest with myself and look at my own demons. Like, I haven't been the nicest to other females in the industry because I saw them as like fierce competition, not to their face, but I would like, you know, I would feel insecure because we were told there were so few places. And I had to really tell myself it's time for a change. And I need to make myself vulnerable and reach out to my fellow female artists and just women at all in the industry. They're even behind the scenes, any female in the industry. And I started making Hej Søster, which is my initiative to better the music industry. I made that in the summer of 2018. And I actually I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just was like, okay, there's so much female talent. We keep being told there are so few females, yet I see all these females that nobody gets to hear. And so I was like, what if I just put them all on a playlist on Spotify? Let's see how many there is. And, you know, I made an Instagram and I was like, hey, you guys, does anybody know any female artists that I don't know? Like, can you like pitch them to me? And so the response was just overwhelming. And soon we had just so many artists on the list. And I even was like, how did I not hear about these people? Like, it's such a small country. I don't get it. And then I started doing stories on my Instagram where I would listen to other females' music and I would tag them and be like, I love this song. Or, you know, I just really wanted to be supportive. And what happened was I used to not have any female friends really in the industry. And in a matter of very short time, there was this community forming and people were very, very positive. And like, I could feel that we had all been craving this and needing like a system of support and a system, like a safe space really to just be like, hey, like there's room enough. Who are making these rules? Who decides that we can't all be here? Why do we accept that that's just how it is? And so I really started challenging that a lot with my initiative, Hej Søster. And it kind of just spiraled very quickly from there. And then I made a festival and then it became like, you know, a podcast. And so it's like still growing. And this was before the big second wave of Me Too in Denmark, which just happened last year, which kind of blows my mind that it's taken so long. But I really laid the groundwork back then because I just felt like I don't have anything to lose. Either I'm going to stop making music because I can't stand the industry, or I'm going to try to change it somehow.
How to see a deeper issue?
Misogyny can be very internalized. And that's what I also realized. I was like, oh, a lot of these negative thoughts I have are internalized misogyny. Like it's because I don't like myself, actually, because I was taught not to. So it's been a long process. Like it's been very personal as well. And I just love to see how many things are being developed over the last few years. There are so many cool initiatives and we're all rooting for each other. It's not like, oh, I made an initiative, now you can't make. It's like, yes, like the more, the better, because we're all working for the same thing, which is so cool. It's finally not a lonely place to be. The music industry for a woman in Denmark, I feel, is now becoming a nice place to actually exist.
You experienced a different treatment because of being a female.
women in general are put under so much more scrutiny than men. And I remember doing some interviews where, you know, I would show up, no makeup, just like, we're here to talk about my music. I didn't think I needed to present myself in any particular way. And funnily enough, it was with female artists and journalists, both times. And they both wrote in the article that I looked tired and I didn't wear makeup and all this stuff. And I was like, what? Like, why is this even a thing? Like, I'm here to talk about something that I made, and it shouldn't be about what I look like. I should be able to just walk in here with like whatever, like a pajamas. It shouldn't be a thing. And definitely there's very much focus on like the sexual aspects, and you have to be desirable, and it's all about the male gaze, really, you know, how they view us as women, and we have to really please their ideals. That's sort of what you've been taught by the female pop stars that I grew up with. And I definitely never really played by those rules. And I don't know if that made it harder for me, but it definitely, I felt the pressure still. Like, I remember going to like photo shoots. If I was doing an interview for like a fashion magazine about my music, I'm just not like super skinny. Like, you know, I'm just like a normal girl. And so they would ask me about my size, and I would tell them my size. And then I would come to the photo shoots and they had sample sizes, which is what models use. And I couldn't fit any of that stuff. And I was like, I told you my size. Is it because you are telling me directly I should be able to fit into this? Like, I'm being shamed for not being able to look like a professional model. That's not my job. I'm a musician. So there's these little signs. They don't tell you directly, but it's just, you know, you are constantly being pushed down to this like box as a female. And oh my God, if you have an opinion, or, you know, if you're not just likable all the time, then you definitely make yourself very vulnerable for the press to attack you and write not so nice things about you, or even for the, you know, the industry to gossip, you know. So that's very hard. It's like your every tiniest move is being watched very, very closely.
What can each of us do to make things better?
It's always healthy to sort of do the test of would you use those words to describe a man? So it's always like, I'm always asking myself this, if something feels a bit like, I'm like, would I get offended if I read this sentence about a man? Would that feel strange to me? Oftentimes, yeah, because you don't need to use those words to, you know, believe in them. It's like you have to almost, as a female, convince other people that they're good. Oh, you know, you should listen to this because, you know, she's not like the other ones. Like, she's, you know, it's like the more masculine sort of energy you can put into it, the better, kind of. And I know from a lot of other female artists who have more like soft values, soft voices, very feminine energy, they have expressed to me that it's been very difficult. And then there's the other category of sort of the very like vulnerable, weak, very like, you know, like this manic pixie dream girl kind of fantasy. So it's like, why can't you just be a person? You know, why do you have to fit into these stupid boxes?
What do you think the male part of the music industry could change? And why do you think they still don't see the problem often?
Well, that's the thing about privilege. That's the problem. You don't think it's an issue because it's not happening to you. It's the same with racism. And, you know, it's so many people are so quick to take up space in the debate about how this is not happening. And I'm like, how can you not see that you're not supposed to talk right now? You're supposed to listen and sit the fuck down, because now you have to listen to people who are experiencing these things. That's what I've done with the racism debate. I've really tried to listen a lot. I'm not the one who's supposed to be like, I think this, and you know, I'm not here to take up that space. You know what I mean? It's not for me to do. So I'm confused about it. I don't know why they're trying to silence us when we talk about this and tell us that what we're experiencing doesn't exist. I will probably never really understand that sort of arrogance.
What can you do as a female artist?
I make myself not dependent on anyone. I feel like a free bird, honestly. Finally, I'm like, I can choose exactly who I like to have on my team. Like, I employ a lot of females, which makes everything much more efficient, much more reliant, so much nicer, so much more fun to be. I have male colleagues that I love working with too. It's not like I don't like men. It's just, I like the balance it creates to have both male and female energy. And I get to choose exactly like who I want to work with because, now I'm not on a label. Now I'm actually from this summer not published anymore. I have my rights back to my own music. For the first time, I own my own music 100%. That's never happened in my career before. And right now I'm in a very good position where I can do the music I love, and I get to also write music for other artists that I love, and I get to do all these new things. I really feel like I get to do cool shit. And I'm so grateful. I think I had to free myself of the industry to still love it. To still love making music, really, to be honest with you. I don't see myself thriving in an environment where I'm not respected, really. It's an industry full of people who got into the industry because they love music. And it ends up being about anything but music. And you end up resenting being in that industry. And you're just like, why am I even here anymore? I don't even feel like I'm good at what I do right now or whatever it is. And, it's just, how is it able to ruin so many people's like joy? It's so wrong. I don't understand it. It should be able to create so many cool and exciting things.
How the movement is growing?
A few years ago when I started High Sister, it was basically only really myself and another initiative called Hun Solo that ever really spoke about anything publicly. And then slowly more women started coming forward. So more people are chiming in. And now we're probably like 5, 6, 7 people who publicly kind of speak. I've actually kind of stopped doing it because I've done it so much and I felt like it was draining my energy a lot. It's hard always being the target, and I would rather express it on my own terms than talking to media because things get taken out of context and all this stuff. And you kind of put yourself in this like, oh, come like trolls. Hello, trolls, like come into my life. Like, I don't need that. I'm a mother. I have 3 kids. So I've sort of let other people take more over. I'm doing a lot of work, but I'm not speaking about it so much publicly, if that makes any sense. I'm still doing all the work and all the activism.
What's the most important for the future of gender equality in the music industry?
Representation is very important. I think diversity is extremely important. So if you're looking around a room where people are making the decisions and having the power to decide, for example, who gets played on the radio, I think the people in charge should represent the world more. And so it's not just the same type of person everywhere with the same preferences, because that's how we get blind to our privilege. So I think for the gatekeepers in the industry, like the booking agents, the radio people, the label people, everyone who gets to decide what the audience gets to listen to, there needs to be a lot more diversity. If you look around in Denmark, at least, it's all white men deciding. I think that's the issue. And then we all have a lot of work to do to just realize these structures. It took me many years to realize why I was so intimidated by other females in the industry and why I sort of didn't want them close to me. And I really had to do a lot of work internally. And you have to be willing to do that work to understand where it comes from and that it's something we were brought up to think like. So I really do think that there's several things that needs to be done. But a good place to start is definitely looking at who is in charge. I think the industry has been very reluctant to acknowledge these issues. They have had to be told many, many times by many different people. So it's a very, very slow progress that's happening right now. And really what needs to be done is that we have to keep talking about it. The media has to also chime in. And very luckily, they have been willing to do that in the last year, at least in Denmark. And also, it's tough because I've been in panel debates with people like gatekeepers, and they've just told me that basically there's no problem and that women just need to make better music. And we need to learn how to make, popular music, which is like, I've been told that, and I've had like number one album and number one hits. So that's really sort of insulting. But I don't know. It's definitely, there's been a lot of pushback for sure. It's not been easy, but I think we just have to keep talking about it. And the more who sort of talks about it, we also need some men to be allies and come forward and say that they realize that there's issues, and a few has done that. And it's funny again to see like the importance or like the weight of the words when it comes from men is so different than when it comes from women. Then people want to listen. Oh, okay, that this guy thinks that it's also an issue, so maybe we should actually take this seriously. So we unfortunately still need those allies. But yeah, at least there are some people who are willing to talk about it and, want things to get better. But I would say it's still difficult.
I got a TikTok heart and it's wanting me down. I got a TikTok heart and it's wanting me down. I got a TikTok heart and it's wanting me down. I got a TikTok heart and it's wanting me down. I got a TikTok heart and it's wanting me down. I got a TikTok heart and it's wanting me down. I got a TikTok heart and it's wanting me down. I got a TikTok.
The allies of fighting for the gender equality in the Danish music industry are for sure people from W.A.S Entertainment.
My name is Jakob, and I'm the CEO, I think it's called, and co-founder of a music company called W.A.S Entertainment, formerly known as We Are Suburban. So we have existed for a couple of years. I'm here, I have 4 colleagues, and we're doing, we like this, you can say, the typical modern music company where we do mostly management, but also we also release music, and we do publishing as well, and have our own PR house internally. So a modern music company just trying to survive.
And recently there has been quite a big discussion in the music industry about the topic of female artists and the way they are treated in the music industry in Denmark, and the topic of sexism in the industry. Then you stepped in as a company with an initiative. Where did it come from? What happened there?
I think this has been a debate that's been going on and off for a couple of years now, and when it blew up again around September, we obviously had opinions, and we also thought that because of our roster, our artist roster, the artists that we work with, we might have some opinions that were actually that made sense to share, at least, because I think we have many female and non-binary artists at our company, and obviously working with those artists closely, we get a lot of knowledge in that way. So we've been discussing these things a lot with our artists, and I just think that for us it made sense to do something, because we witnessed that maybe the record companies, the booking agents, weren't that proactive when they were asked about these challenges. It was very it's a big problem. We don't really know what to do about it, but it's a very sad situation. And then we thought, well, maybe it was important to do something a bit proactive, instead of just like writing a debate and sending it to newspapers. We should try to do something that could make that could maybe hopefully make the industry come up with some sort of long-term solution. So we decided to invite our colleagues and other Danish artists to this workshop, you can call it. In Danish, I think we called it a samråd. I don't have the English word for that, but 3 hours where we were able to discuss these challenges and also to trying to. It's a very large topic, and it can be it can be a bit confusing, like what is sexism and what is like harassment, and so it was about for us to just get more knowledge actually, and try to see if we could share this knowledge with our colleagues. So we did that.
I think it's very interesting that there is finally someone who, as you said, apart from just saying, "Oh yeah, we admit there is a problem. It's sad." And then people who come up, artists, mostly female artists who come up with the problem, telling about their experience. It is important, of course, to acknowledge the problem. But it's also, I think, the next step, what you started doing is to find some solutions and actually some actions that can be taken.
Yeah, exactly. Because, when the media attention starts going on, you also get some kind of momentum to actually do something, because it's on people's minds. And so it was very important for us to do something while it was on our own minds and our colleagues' minds. So we decided to do something and not just write something.
When I think about this particular issue, I think the bigger part of the responsibility for the change is sort of lying on the people from the music industry, not the artists themselves, because there has to be an environment change.
Yeah, you're totally right. And that was also one of the main things that we discussed. So it's very important that this workshop that we held yesterday, Monday, 23rd, it was not about like us from W.A.S Entertainment talking about our experiences. We are not experts at all. We only, we have it close to our hearts because of our artists, but we are not experts. So what we did was we curated a program where we had a gender researcher, and we had a girl called Sophie who just did her master's about inequality in the Danish music industry. So we had these two to actually give out all of their knowledge to our colleagues and ourselves. And then afterwards we asked our organizations like IFBI and the Rhythmic Conservatory, DLBFA and Hunsolo to share their initiatives and talk about what they're doing to face these challenges. But one of the main things that was talked about was that the music industry needs to change. The female artists, non-binary artists cannot do this on their own. It's all about the industry facing these challenges and committing to actually change their way of working.
Do you have any experience as W.A.S Entertainment that can be helpful? Like, did you find, for example, out that you already do something that might be helpful?
So what was very nice to find out was actually that many organizations, many very good people are actually doing things right now. So for instance, obviously Hunsolo, as I mentioned before, is a very, very, very nice initiative who are really doing something. Also, She Can Play and Hej Søster, which I know Fallulah is part of as well. So we have these very great initiatives going on, but also talking to, for instance, IFBI, who are the labels association. They are also doing things. They have created a sounding board, which consists, female artists and female industry workers to kind of help them on how to deal with these things. So I think the main taking point from this was actually that there is a willingness now to do something. My biggest wish is that this will also carry on when the media attention has gone down, because it's very important that this will not be solved based on one meeting. This will not be solved like in the next 3 months. This is a structural change that needs to happen. And I think the main taking point is people are willing to do something, but my concern is that it takes a lot of work. But as long as the motivation is there, I'm in good spirits.
Do you think that there's also some sort of generation change that allows this to happen now? You are also a company of the new generation in the music industry, if I can say so.
Totally. Just like when we talk climate changes and stuff like that, I think that our generation are maybe a bit more like raised with these concerns. So I think it might be more natural for us to incorporate change in the way that we work. So yeah, definitely, and I'm very proud of being a part of this younger generation of the music industry or the industry in general. And I can see I have lots of great colleagues at other companies my age or thereabout who are also very very considerate regarding these things. So yeah, I do really think that it's a big part of it, but it's important because, you know, like the older, wiser people who have been in the industry for years, they are still here and they're still going to be here for the next maybe 20 years. And we don't have that much time. So we cannot wait for like a generational change. We need to do things now. And I do think that also like some of the more experienced industry people are now willing to do something. That's nice.
Talking about different ways of treating female and male artists, I also wanted to ask you from the point of view of like preparing press materials and the coverage. Like I thought a lot about it lately, how this is also a very important area in this topic, because you can do everything right and you can try to make awareness, but then if the media part is still done in an old-fashioned way, it's hard to get through. Do you think there will be any possibility for a change in the way that music is covered regarding gender?
Yeah, totally. I think one of the main factors in this is radio, first and foremost. So radio has very much to say still, and I think that, you know, many unfortunately, if you see like some of the numbers, there is still a very very big gap between how many male artists and how many female artists that are getting played on the radio. There's also a big gap between male versus female artists on festivals and also on when you know, the Spotify playlists. So there is still a long way to go. I think written media, like Good Because Danish, I think it's easier. I think we don't have the same issues there, but I think especially radio, Spotify, and festivals, we have issues there, and it's like a evil spiral because, you know, the festivals are looking for female artists to put on their festival program, and the radio doesn't play that many. So I think we change needs to start there a bit. And that was also one of the talking points yesterday, was that it's really about if we can get, for instance, radio to play more female artists, if we can talk to Spotify regarding their algorithms and how they do favor male artists still, maybe that could do some change.
There are some comments, very small number of them, but there saying things like that going for 50-50 quota in airplay or in festival lineups is making the quality worse. Do you think there is any point to that?
No, I don't really. I think the big problem right now is in the schools. It's almost equal representation in the music classes. Almost 50-50. When you see quota memberships, I think it's 18% or 19% that are female. And if you see radio, for instance, like the top 20 list, there are 1 out of 20 are female artists. So something is going wrong there between being 7 years old and going to a music class in your school, and then 15 years later, a big underrepresentation of female artists. So what has gone wrong, right? Quotas are not the most, it's not the ideal way of doing it, but I sometimes I do think that it can be, at least for a short period of time, it could work, because one of the main things that we also discussed yesterday was the lack of female role models. When you drive in your car with your kids, you're driving them to school and you're listening to the radio, and 1 out of 20 of the songs are female, then your own thoughts about a musician would be a male musician, right? And if you're a parent and you have to raise your children, and your thought of a musician is a male, then you might not be that inclined to push your child into a career in music. And the same way, if you are a 10-year-old girl who likes music, but you don't have that many role models, then you might think, this is not for me, because most of the big stars are men. So I really think that it's about creating more role models, and it's about finding out how we can ensure that we keep women in the music industry and turn it into a professional career. And I think quotas might help, because I think we have a job to do now. It's like with the climate changes. So we've been messing with our environment for so many years now. So we're about to reach a point where we need to do something drastically to not lose everything. So we do put up some kind of climate goals. Maybe you could do the same with gender in the Danish music industry, just for the time being.
I think, like, for me, the idea of having like 50-50 lineup is interesting in terms of forcing the people preparing the lineup also to kind of get out of their comfort zones and like the easy ways to find the artists. And totally. Then when it comes to female artists, they have to dig a little bit deeper maybe, but then they can find how much potential is actually there.
I totally agree. Because I don't think it's about the lack of quality. I really, I can just speak for my own company. Thankfully, we get a lot of music sent our way, which we are very, very happy about. And obviously, a lot of that music is from female artists, and it's amazing, the quality. So I really don't buy the fact that there is a quality difference at all. Unfortunately, and I really have to send you that master that Sofie Salvid she did. So the big problem is also that, for instance, she did some interviews with some people from labels, and they were honest. They were like, when we get a female artist and I go to my boss and I ask for a budget, he will give me less money, because they can see that, it might not go that smooth as if it was with a male artist. It is a big problem right now. And I don't think it's about quality. I think it's about loads of male gatekeepers picking what's going to get played on the radio, what's going to be added to the Spotify playlist, and what is going to be signed by the record labels. I think that's the key problem.
Looking from the perspective of someone who searched new music, I think it's also an interesting topic to look for making room for women in different genres as well. Because typically, for a long time, most of the female artists were put into this kind of pop lady diva princess role. And for example, artists like Rebecca Lou, it's something awesome, and she has an amazing voice, but it's completely different style. And I kind of think that it might be harder to push through.
Totally. I think one of the things that Rebecca Lou, whom I work with, is really tired of hearing is that people always need to say, Rebecca Lou, it's female rock. Why do you need to put a gender on her genre? It makes no sense. So, and it's kind of the same with like.
And if I may say this, like, it's definitely like by the sound, it's like more badass than a lot of
yeah,
male rock.
Yeah,
bands
I
out there.
agree. I really do agree. But you can see it's weird that we have to. Yeah, this is female rock music, and it's like the same when we talk about like there can only be one pop queen, and now it's Jada, but who's gonna take over? It's like, why can there only be one? It makes no sense. We have a bunch of male artists in every category, and first of all, we don't call their genre male pop or something. We just call it pop music, and I think it's so clear that we have a problem when we need to put a gender in front of a genre.
But I think it was really interesting that you were able to talk especially about this problem that happens when, from, as you said, from the moment there is an equality to the moment that somehow it kind of disappears along the way.
Yeah.
And what happens there?
Yeah, I don't know what happens, but my feeling is that it's just a very male-dominated industry. Men are in charge. Unfortunately, they do tend to pick other men, and I think that's the same thing in the music industry. That's been a fact for many years. I think that's why, and I think the big challenge right now is to find out how we ensure that this does not happen. How can we motivate and inspire female artists to keep on writing and to ensure them that it is possible to have a professional career in music. And a place to start could be playing more of them in the radio, because then they will be playing more festivals, and then they will actually have an economy around there.
When I run away, I know that I should stay. Face my face today, come what may.
Thank you for listening to the Good Because Danish podcast. We are learning how to make them better and working on upgrading our equipment and software in order to deliver the best possible listening experience to you. We hope you can bear with us while we are still exploring the world of podcasting. If you like what we are doing, please consider supporting Good Because Danish via PayPal donation or via Patreon site. You can find more information on the best Danish music on our website, goodbecausedanish.com.